I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god. I don't think.
Because you survived a car wreck?
You folks ready to order?
I didn't just survive a wreck. I wasn't just blown up yesterday. I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, hung, electrocuted, and burned.
Oh, really?
And every morning I wake up without a scratch on me, not a dent in the fender. I am an immortal.
Special today is blueberry waffles.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I want you to believe in me.
You're not a god. You can take my word for it. This is 12 years of Catholic school talking.
I could come back if you're not ready.
How do you know I'm not a god?
Ha! Oh, please.
How do you know?
Because it's not possible.
This is the Blood and Black podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin. How's it going? We're doing pretty well. I feel like we've done this before, though. Honestly, I feel like we did this yesterday for a little bit, and unfortunately, the episode didn't go as planned. But I feel like we also were supposed to do this last week, and we never did it. Getting a little bit of deja vu here. Is today Groundhog Day?
No, that was last week, you asshole.
Damn. Yeah, we missed our Groundhog Day episode. We missed the actually getting it out for the holiday. I don't know. Somewhere along the line, I made a mistake in our calendar, and I guess I didn't factor in a week or something like that because I missed Groundhog Day. So we kind of got off. Like, I had planned that we were going to do an episode for Groundhog Day, and we were going to have it up for Groundhog Day, and I planned that we were going to have an episode for Valentine's Day as well, and technically this week should be the Valentine's Day episode, so I don't know what happened, but I apologize for getting that wrong.
Yeah, there was nothing better than seeing your text on Groundhog Day, like, fuck it.
Oh shit, we were supposed to do Groundhog Day. Yeah.
But you did say in 2 weeks, so you did say, like, you know.
I know.
Which, you know, it's okay that we're doing it now, but we're usually early birds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween's coming, do 2 months of it, start in September.
Sure.
You know, Christmas is coming, start in December, beginning of December. Leprechaun, St. Patrick's Day, always on the money.
Leprechaun. I know. We fucked up. I fucked up this time. Messed it up. I'm sorry. I apologize. But, you know what? That just means that you get to relive Groundhog Day all over again, and it's very thematic with the movie. So, why not?
Wait, we're doing the movie Groundhog Day?
Yeah, we're doing the movie Groundhog Day.
But didn't we do this movie before?
No, we did Scrooge before.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Which, by the way, I've seen Groundhog Day a bunch of times. It's probably been like a good decade since I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's fucking Scrooge.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking, you know, it's not like, you know, this was directed by Harold Ramis and co-written by Harold Ramis. And it's not like he did Scrooge, but they are very, very similar. And, you know, they have that common denominator, Bill Murray here.
I think it's just the Bill Murray effect, because, like, it's Bill Murray's playing Bill Murray, and
you know, he even has
he's an asshole, and, you know, who needs to have a life lesson to learn to be a better person.
Yeah, I mean, he even has the like the same type of job too, because in Scrooge, you know, he's working in television, and here he's working as a reporter. They're all very similar, so it does feel a lot like an extension of that. And even so, like, there's also the gimmickiness of it too, right? Like, Scrooge is obviously a Christmas Carol, but you know, told in a different manner. And Groundhog Day has its gimmick too, except this was one of the pivotal moments of the repeat the same day over and over again film genre. We've only done one of those previously. We did Happy Death Day, which is basically a reimagining of Groundhog Day, but as a horror movie. But honestly, this is a gimmick, but it is an effective one, especially for its time frame in 1993. It's a gimmick that works for it, and it has been replayed over and over again, and still continues to be a gimmick that works. Especially like recently there was a TV show called Russian Doll that did really similar thing, and they used it as like a time jump sort of thing. It's an interesting idea that I think works really well in this movie. And what we're really talking about with Groundhog Day too, it's a rom-com. It's a rom-com. Would you agree? Would you classify it as a rom-com?
It's a gaslight rom-com.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a movie about a meet cute between a guy and a girl, and ultimately it has that sort of gimmickiness that a rom-com would have, of like, a certain thing occurs, or a certain element to it, and then he eventually gets the girl, and they get together. It's a rom-com. It's a Bill Murray rom-com. It does feel kind of weird now watching Groundhog Day, and knowing Bill Murray's behind the scenes antics a little bit more. Obviously people kind of, you kind of figured Bill Murray's probably an asshole behind the scenes, but knowing now, the kinds of sexual harassment that might have occurred behind the scenes with Bill Murray, it's a little bit weird watching Groundhog Day. And as you said, noting the fact that this is basically a movie about gaslighting a woman who has no idea, because it's not possible. There's a science fiction element to this. So it feels a little weird. Feels a little funky. Yeah, you said you've seen Groundhog Day before. I've seen it before as well.
I've seen it a bunch of times. I used to play it on Comedy Central every now and then.
I've seen it probably maybe like twice, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. I haven't seen it very recently. It's probably like 10 years ago, the last time I saw it. So it was nice to relive it and relive these late 80s, early 90s comedies, especially ones with Bill Murray. So, yeah. All right. Let's take a break first before we get into the movie itself. Talk about the beer that we do or don't have on the show today. The beer that we were supposed to have on the show, we tried to do the show yesterday. We were having some technical difficulties, so we weren't able to do it, and we ended up drinking the beer that we had on the show, especially the one that Martin had, because I gave Martin 2, but I have a whole pack of them, so I can dig in as much as I want, but Martin already drank his too, so he's going to go for memory on this one. But the beer that we have on the show today, and one I wanted to do, is the new Fat Tire Ale from New Holland, which, if you know New Holland, they have generally made the Fat Tire Amber Ale for, I think, probably most of their brewing career. And fortunately or unfortunately, they've decided to change the recipe of their Fat Tire. They're no longer making it an amber ale. It's actually going to be I guess it's a golden ale is what they're technically calling this. It's basically like a fairly mild Pilsner-esque sort of beer. And I think, as you said that, I think it does tend to take on a little bit of a Miller Liteyan note to it.
Which is funny, because on the website it says, it's a classic ale. Well, what's a fucking classic ale?
Yeah, I think it's considered a blonde or a golden, and I think so. Like, it's interesting that they're changing the recipe at this point in their careers. I think that at a certain point, a brewery gets to this point where they either need to change their flagship or seek out like a different sort of label for what they're going to focus on. A lot of the breweries you'll see now are starting to focus on these series, right? So like the IPA series, their lager series, and they're boiling down their main beers into like various series so that they're easier to discuss and they're easier to market. So if you want to say like, the Voodoo Ranger series, Those are, you know what you're talking about with those. Those are all IPAs, but they're all different types of IPAs within that series. I think a lot of brewers are starting to go that route. And so with Fat Tire, I don't know if they're like New Belgium is trying to do a different sort of lineup or series, but for whatever reason, they felt the need to change up the amber ale, potentially because people aren't drinking very many amber ales at this point. It's a kind of an odd beer to have as your flagship beer.
I think it's probably stuck around, and we've had New Belgium's regular Fat Tire before,
Yep.
and I think we've done it on the podcast. It's a pretty good amber ale, and I think the change is mainly just because at this point, I mean, as good as a beer as that amber ale was, I don't think anyone's really buying it anymore, and that's why they're feeling the need to kind of change things up. I mean, Sam's has been tinkering with their shit constantly, and same thing with like Saranac around here. Pale ale's still around because, they're not going to let it go, but you can see how like a lot, especially like these older craft breweries and like New Belgium, like Saranac, like Sam Adams, their flagship is from yesteryear,
Right.
Same thing with like Sierra Nevada, like their flagship is still technically the pale ale. How much the pale ale sells compares into like hazy little thing? Probably not as much, but I think, they probably still can justify keeping it on the market, and keeping it in their variety packs like Sam's does with the Boston Lager or Sam 76 when they're, trying to make that like the new flagship, to kind of justify it. Because, we're over 10 years now into IPA heaven, and they're just, it's growing more and more. So I can see why they changed it to something different. I don't know if it would have been necessary. I think they probably could have just came out with a new beer, but I don't really drink New Belgium that much to begin with. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that they decided like they were going to change the flagship. I personally, for me, I probably would have preferred that they didn't change the recipe so wholeheartedly like this, and they just kind of went with a new beer. If they truly did want to make just like a golden ale or something like that, and make it their major beer at this point. Maybe they just felt weird about phasing out Fat Tire entirely. Like if they weren't going to make an amber ale, maybe they felt weird about getting rid of that beer and having something else become their flagship. I don't know. What I will say, though, is that I think that the new Fat Tire recipe is really good for what it does, a golden ale. It's very mild. It's got a nice little maltiness to it, just, a vagueness of hops there. It's kind of got a nice backbone to it, just a little bit on a bitter side, but at the same time, it's something like when someone comes in and they're like, you don't have Coors? You don't have Coors in a bottle? Like, no, I don't have Coors, but we do have this new Fat Tire ale. It's basically like that, but in an ale form. I think that's where they're kind of looking to market this, is to the people that aren't necessarily interested in the weirdness of craft beer at this point. They're marketing it to the more mass domestic beer drinking people who might enjoy something like this. And at the same time, it might get them out of their comfort zone just a tad. It's a little bit different. It's an ale. It's not a lager. It's an ale. It might get them out of their comfort zone just enough to like try something else and kind of get into the craft beer world. So I don't know if that's their intention. I don't know if they've really come out with their intentions too much. I just seen one of the guys that I watched that's like a beer reporter had talked about how they were changing the recipe up, and I knew it was coming, and I saw it in the store, and I wasn't sure at first because they had both. They had the amber ale and they had the new Fat Tire ale, and it's not clear on the box either. When you see the Fat Tire ale, it's not clear like it doesn't say new recipe. It's not like there's a big stamp on it, new recipe. This is not the amber ale that you're used to. It's just they changed the box up and they changed the labeling. And they don't call it, and they just call it Fat Tire Ale now. So that's really your only cue that that's what you're getting. It's a different type of box. I think it's like a bluish box now instead of whatever it used to be. And a nice, like, very plain label to it. Very, very simple, but it works really well. And overall, I'm satisfied with what this is. The one thing that I will say is, like, I don't know that I would, be open to, like, coming back to Fat Tire, like, over and over again. Like, would I really seek it out and be like, I gotta have this in my house all the time? Probably not, but I think it's a really good beer for what it does. The only thing I can say is it might anger those people who truly did have amber ale all the time. If you're expecting that and you order a Fat Tire and they bring out this, you're going to be a little pissed off if you haven't heard the news. So it's the only thing I can think of for the downsides. And you agree? I didn't really give you a chance to discuss your opinion on the beer itself.
No,
you don't have it in front of me, but in front of you.
You were quite winded. It's funny, on their website for the apparel, they still have the old Fat Tire can on there. The amber ale. But, I liked it quite a bit. I think it's, really crisp, really refreshing. A little bit more bodied because it is technically an ale, like a golden ale, blonde ale. A little bit more complexity there, a little bit more yeasty. It's very good. I like it a lot. I would compare it to something like a classier, even though they're not the same style beers, but I would compare it a bit to Miller Lite or Founder's Solid Gold. It's very good. I think it'd probably be really good too, like Cerveza style with like a lime. I liked it quite a bit, but I think the fact, that you're probably going to be paying like $20 for a 12-pack is going to always kind of make, no matter how much I think it's pretty good, it's going to be hard to justify, buy it on the reg. So, but I would say give it a try. It's, I like when craft breweries, whether they're big or small, do stuff like this because it's not that I'm IPA'd out, but I mean, you can only fucking, Sierra Nevada's doing it now with like the hazies, they got a juicy little thing. And it's the same goddamn thing as a hazy little thing, except in a different can. And the fact they have the gall to call it something different, is kind of annoying. So I like when they do things like this that are, more in your lawn mowing beer tier, playing beer league softball and you just hit a double and you come around the score after and you're like, I need to quench my thirst. Have a Fat Tire.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think it's very solid. It's it's not going to pull a lot of craft drinkers to it, but at the same time, I think it will do the opposite. It'll pull a lot of people who might not be into craft beer. You might check this out and think, wow, this is a nice little segue from what I'm used to drinking.
It's definitely a beer that's got the vibes of when you're at Applebee's and you sit down and you're about to say, I'll have a Coors Light. And you're like, hold on a second there, partner.
That is true. I agree. It is. It's one of those segues.
If I don't say my spiel, I'm gonna have to give you a free drink.
Yeah, you're gonna get a $10 Applebee's card if we don't say it. Says it right on the table, and Jane over there is eyeing it. She's looking at that sign, thinking, I hope this bitch doesn't say that spiel. I agree. I agree.
It's funny because I can always see like your parents sitting there like, got him. They didn't fucking say it. They didn't say it.
Yep.
Let's go. Get our free beer. Like, I would never, like, even if they forgot to say it, and I would never point that out. I would never be like, oh, excuse me, sir. Yeah, they didn't tell me this. Give me the the sales pitch on the Labatt Blue, so I believe I'm entitled to a free Labatt Blue 20-ounce glass. I would never do that. That's just,
It's icky, huh? Yeah, no, I agree, though. I think this is one of those things where, like, the Applebee's people are like, we're gonna sell these Fat Tire ales. We just got a new shipment in. They really want us to get these out. So they're doing this marketing program, and the first thing is somebody sits down and they're like, I'll take one of your domestics. You market them the Fat Tire Ale. You say, it's really similar. I think you'll like it. I think you'll really like it.
It's out of Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yep.
That's as domestic as you get.
Yep. I think you're right on that. It's a good marketing technique for New Belgium. If they haven't thought of it, they truly should listen to you.
Pair up with all these TGIF Fridays.
Some guy at this New Belgium PR is sitting there listening. He's saying, "Get Applebee's on the phone." Ruby Tuesday too.
What about TGIF Fridays?
Yeah, TGIF Fridays. I was thinking that. Chili's? Chili's kind of out of our demographic, don't you think?
What about Fuddruckers? Or the 99?
99. There you go. That's another. Actually, Harpoon already has them on the. On the dole. Yeah, the Harpoon I think does all their 99 exclusives because they do like the horseshoe ale. Harpoon does all that.
Well, I'll do that.
Yep.
So I haven't been the 99 fucking years.
And they used to do like a rotating series too. I remember they had a watermelon one at one point. Yeah, I think Harpoon does all those.
God, that's another brewery we have to do. We love that we have done eons. When's the last time we sat down and like, I'm gonna buy a Harpoon?
They haven't really been coming out with a whole lot of stuff. Not that I've noticed.
Well, the website says they got Juicier Hazy IPA.
It's called Juicier Hazy.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Throw all the keywords. Throw all the keywords in there. How can we get both hazy and juicy in this?
They're available now. They got like nothing for their available now. It's just the Juicier Hazy IPA, their Imperial Stout, a New England Pale Ale, their Harpoon IPA, the Rec League.
See, that's what I was saying. They don't do that much anymore. They're not making as much anymore. I don't know if they've cut back or what.
I wonder if they got bought out.
They may have. All right, let's get on to the Groundhog Day episode, though. Let's talk about this. Get into it a little bit. Groundhog Day is, like we said, a pretty standard Bill Murray movie from the late 80s, early 90s. Bill Murray plays Bill Murray, an asshole who knows in this movie that he's an asshole. I think there's one point where he actually even says like he's an asshole. And
yes, he does.
Yeah. And he is a guy that, honestly, I can kind of see why he's an asshole, though. Like, he's a weatherman reporter. He keeps getting assigned to do fucking Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Keeps getting assigned it. This is like the fourth year in a row that he's got to go there. And, I can kind of get it from a reporter standpoint. Like, you get assigned, when you start out as a reporter, you're like, I'm gonna get the big breaks. We're gonna cover, mafia hits in the city. They're in Philadelphia, right?
Pittsburgh.
No, Pittsburgh. I mean, he's gonna cover all the big stories. And then what do you end up getting assigned to? Does a groundhog come out of a hole in a wall and see his shadow? And you've got to act excited about it. Yeah, every year, and every year he does see his shadow. Every year he does. So you've got to act surprised about it. Like, what? 6 more weeks again? We've been having a little balminess for it lately. How could it possibly be 6 more weeks of winter?
Listen, you are right. I can't remember the last time that little bastard's come out, and it's not bad. 6 more weeks of winter.
It's always 6 more weeks of winter. As far back as I can remember, he always comes out and he sees his fucking shadow every time. Yeah, I mean,
I would love to be betting on I would love to bet on that, on like a fucking like sports gambling. And
yeah, you're gonna get a fence and
just like, well, what would Punxsutawney Phil say?
He's gonna say 6 more weeks of winter. You probably wouldn't get very much for it, and be like, yeah, everybody bets on that. Terrible odds on those. But anyway, yeah. So Bill Murray, and not only does he plays Phil as well. So the groundhog's name is Phil. Bill Murray plays Phil. So, but anyway, he plays this guy. I can kind of understand why he gets pissed off about that.
Yeah, well, I could. I'm on the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club website right now,
wow.
And 2016, he did not see his shadow.
Oh my God! Wow.
And 2013 as well, and 2011. So I guess we're just negative Nancy's.
I guess so. But seriously though, in the past decade, he's only seen it 3 times.
They have it listed. They have it from 1886 to 2017. They have it listed. God bless this website.
I know, right? They're just really good custodians of the Groundhog.
It comes with the top hat that you have to wear.
That's right. So Bill Murray heads to this. He heads to Punxsutawney, and he has his trio, or his duo. I should say his duo of cameraman Chris Elliott and his producer Rita, played by Andy McDowell. And they had
what a missed opportunity too for the cameraman to tie it into Scrooge to have Bobcat Goldthwait show up in this.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
I like Chris Elliott in this though.
But you know who didn't get a missed opportunity in this film?
Who's that?
Brian Doyle Murray.
That's true. He's in here. And actually he doesn't have his normal mustache type persona on either. He's playing like this kindly old guy who's just like excited about the groundhog. He's just like, the groundhog's coming out of his hole. And be careful of the groundhog.
The poor man's been old since like Blink.
I know. It's kind of must run in the family genes because Bill Murray has always kind of looked like an older guy, even in his younger days too. He's always kind of looked middle aged at least. Brian Doyle Murray has like the later. The problem with looking like he's in like his 60s at every point in his career.
He's like Steve Martin, just perpetually, for even though Steve Martin looks great, but I mean, just like perpetually old. Just
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see him here, and at one point too, he like saves him from choking too, right?
Yeah.
So he gets a couple nice cameos in here. It's gets more time than he normally does in some of the other movies that he's in with Bill. So they go to this Punxsutawney place, and they are supposed to cover Phil coming out of his hole and stuff like that. And we basically progress through that whole day as you would expect, and then all of a sudden Bill Murray wakes up and it's still the same Groundhog Day. And I think the first time we get to see that is probably the best part, where he's like just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He's like, you guys played that tape yesterday on the radio. And then he's looking out and he's like, people are assembling again. What's going on? So, him reliving that first day is a really great experience. And then as he kind of goes through again and again, we get to see like different perspectives of what he's going to do on those days. Like, because he knows like, I'm not figuring out a way to break this. So I'm just going to go and do a bunch of shit that I feel like doing. And at first he starts off womanizing, of course, like sets up a nice little date with a young lady that's at the
Nancy Taylor.
Yep. And it's pretty funny too. And you shared that meme with me just before we watched this movie. It's pretty hilarious when he goes up to her and just asks her like, "Oh, what's your name?" She's like, "Nancy."
Nancy Taylor.
Where'd you go to school? And it just keeps going down.
Let's say the 90s were amazing. Just give them out your whole fucking your bio, like Nancy Taylor. Hey, what school did you go to? What? What school did you go to? I went to this school. Oh, that school. Who was your 12th grade English teacher? Oh, yeah. But it's funny, though, because it's a play on the fact that when he runs into Ned Ryerson every time, when he's like, no, it's me, from we went to school and I shot the shit out of my belly button and my extra sister to prom until you told me to stop asking her. And, he doesn't want to deal with them, and
yeah, it's the same idea.
Yeah. But he's using it for, getting ladies.
Yeah. I mean, and not only that, but like, it is funny too that it works in this scenario. Like, all he really needed to know was those 3 things, and he meets her at the, at the Groundhog Day ceremony, and that's it. That like gets him in.
Well, because he's a weatherman. So then she's like, who the hell are you? And he rattles off that info, and then she's, she's gaslit, and from there it's like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Wow, it's not that impressive. Like to just be like, oh, okay, I'll go to bed with you. You're a 2-bit weatherman on a Pittsburgh TV station. Because even Rita says like she wants to move on from here. She doesn't want to just do the news in Pittsburgh.
Well, she's a fucking filthy hippie, so. She is what modern day Colorado's like. So you know what? Actually, that New Belgium pick might have been spot on, right?
There you go. Yeah, so he does this, his womanizing. He kind of experiments with that. At one point, he becomes Clint Eastwood. And shows up at the movie theater dressed up as Clint Eastwood with a woman in her maid outfit. It seems like a lot of fun. And then eventually he starts to get kind of worn down of repeating a date, which I can totally understand. And I think this movie has a really interesting way of going about it. Like, it is an hour and 40 minutes long. At times, was sitting there thinking, like, this movie is a little bit too long. Like, I was thinking, man, it just keeps going. It kind of, like, could use some cutting. And, maybe it's a little bit too long for itself. And then I was like, that's ingenious. We're right there with him. We're ready for this day to be over with, and yet it just keeps going. So I kind of get that. And, it's a little bit on the long side, but at the same time, it's kind of intentional and thematic, and it works with the movie. One of my favorite parts is when he tries to save that old guy, the old homeless guy, and he, a couple times he like goes through. He sees the old guy, gets him to the hospital, he still dies. He's trying to save him in the streets, gives him a nice warm meal and stuff. He still dies. And then after that, the movie forgets about this guy. It's like, yeah, guess he's fucked, man. Can't save him. Because tried twice.
Because you got the nurse saying, sometimes
they're just old. No, that's how she says it, though. It's not, it's just their time. She's like, he was just old. I don't know. Like the nurse, you don't have much faith in a hospital when the person comes out and you're like, are you with the old guy? I'm like, yeah. It's like, he didn't make it. Like, well, what happened? I don't know. He was just old. I don't know. No one knows what happened.
No. The right answer is he's 75, living out on the streets in the freezing cold and hasn't had a meal. That's why he died.
No, but like,
poverty killed him.
You're expecting a little bit more from the nurse or the doctor who's coming out to tell you that he didn't make it. Like, well, what did he die from? Like, I don't know. He's just old, man. We didn't even try.
Well, again, they're at Puxatawny, so it's different. Because remember when he goes to see the psychiatrist,
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you're something special. I got my first alcoholic today,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I just felt like in the hospital, they were like, they didn't really try. He's like a homeless guy. And who cares? He passed away. I don't know. And then after that, I think it's kind of
he does that. He does that every week. He fakes death to get some money and a free free hot in a cot.
I just think it's funny that after the 2 times that Bill Murray tries to save him, that's it. Like it's just like, all right, we gave it a good shot, but that old homeless guy, he kind of like fades out of the movie's existence at that point. It's just like, yeah, we tried. But I think the interesting thing about Groundhog Day is that we're really expected to see Bill Murray as this guy who is slowly falling for Rita, but at the same time, I feel like the movie doesn't do a great job of setting that up, like setting up the fact that he really, really likes Rita. Like it almost, again, like you said, it feels like gaslighting for a really long time. Like he's just kind of like, well, I want to sleep with this lady. Like I haven't gotten this one, so I'm gonna make it my goal to sleep with this lady. And then he kind of suddenly falls in love with her. But, for the longest time, he's really not interested in her. There's that one point where he's with, I think it's with Nancy. And then he says Rita at one point. And she's like, who? It's like, oh, Nancy. But I don't know that the movie does a great job of like really selling the fact that like, oh, he's really falling for Rita. It kind of happened suddenly.
I think it would be better if by the end we know how many times like it's actually repeated.
Yeah, you don't know that. Yep.
Honestly, it's got to be like an eternity though, because the fact that by the end of the film that everybody in that town, he knows everything that's going on.
Yeah.
With their lives, what they're doing at each moment, it has to be.
Well, I mean, he learns how to ice sculpt and play the piano.
Yeah. So like it's
a long time.
It has to be like an eternity for him to, know like, oh, this kid's gonna fall out of the tree at this time, and this lady's tire's gonna blow out, and I'm gonna go over and save it, and I'm gonna, all the things he does. So
I feel like the worst part of this reliving the day wouldn't be the fact that you actually have to relive the day, because like you could decide to do whatever you wanted. Like him, he starts reading like poetry and stuff, like books. Like great, you could read all the books you wanted to, like during your days. But no, what he decides to do, which I think would be awful, is he wants to learn piano. So every day he's got to go to that lady's house, and every day he's got to give her the same spiel, like, kick out that girl. I'll give you, I give you $1,000. Explain it all. That seems like so tiring.
I know, but it is funny though when like the first time he goes up there, like, I need to learn piano, and she's like, I'm in the middle of teaching a student right now. He's like, I'll give you $1,000, and she takes the poor like 8th grader with her books and throws her around.
Yeah, she gets the hook. Pulled off stage. See you later, little girl.
Like that is really funny.
But I think that would be the worst part, is having to explain the situation over and over and over again. Like, yeah.
Well, not like that though. Like when he's like trying to seduce Frida, and you're like, oh, I don't like chocolate. White chocolate. He's like, don't like white chocolate. Then they play the scene again. This time he's like, changing it up, and and like gets a little further on the day, and then he realizes like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Like, oh, you minor in poetry? That's stupid. And then she gets really upset. He's like, that's not stupid. And then like does the day again, like, because you still have to go through the rest of the day. So like you're literally like running through the day to get to that point. You fucked up. And you're like, well, I got another 18 hours to go through it again. Yeah,
it's like video game speed running.
Yeah,
it's like, shit, I fucked up at the just at the finale, so I'm gonna have to do it all over again.
Load last checkpoint.
I guess in this situation, if he really truly wanted to, didn't want to finish out the day, he could just kill himself, because that seems to work to just reset the day over and over again. Like we see him in a variety of ways killing himself, and the one that is probably the best is when he steals Phil the groundhog and takes him on a little joyride, drives around, and then eventually he's plays chicken with the cops and Brian Doyle Murray, and Brian Doyle Murray's just like, just make sure you aim high, because we don't want to shoot the groundhog. Make sure you don't do that. So he kills himself in a nice little fiery explosion with his car. And I think the best part of that is when Chris Elliott remarks like, oh, I think he'll be okay. Like he could still be okay with that car crash. And then you see the car catch on fire and explode, and he's like, well, he's not going to be okay now. I think that's probably the best part. So, what do you think about, like, what do you think is the best day that we see from Bill Murray's perspective? Like, what's the most fun day?
I think the first couple, when he's like,
still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, trying to figure everything out. When he goes to the diner and meets up with the buddy, the Hicks that he becomes friends with, and he gets drunk, starts drunk driving on the tracks, Yeah.
I think for me, the best one, the one that I like the most, is actually towards the end when he like puts it all together and like he says, I got to go out for some errands, and then he literally like saves everybody, and then at the end of the day, they're at the dance, him and Rita, and everybody just keeps coming up to him like, I can't believe you saved my life. So you saved our marriage. Like we got married.
Now the one thing I don't like about this movie is I like the fact that him being stuck in this time loop is like it's his own self-created hell, essentially, because he hates Groundhog Day. He hates going on this assignment. He's an asshole to everybody, thinks only of himself, very egotistical. So he gets, stuck in his own hell, essentially. It's like the motif going on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does he learn at the end? He doesn't really learn anything at the end, because he spends an eternity and he's like, how do I get rid of this? He just starts running around, saving everybody and doing all this shit because he's learned the patterns, of the day, because he's been doing it for an eternity. At the end, he turns into Billy Joel and gets to have, sex with Rita and wakes up and it's the next day. Like, he didn't learn anything at the end. He didn't really become a better person. We get to see that, like, 3/4 of the way through when he starts, like, hey, I talked to this person over, like, when he brings, like, the coffee and donuts. He's like, hey, I brought this for you guys. And by the way, like, we'll get a really good shot here. That's what they said. And they're like, oh, thanks for, looking out for us. He's like, yeah. And he talks to Larry, and he's like, Claire, we never really got to know each other. And he starts talking. Like, that's what he's supposed to be learning, like, to be a better person. And that should be the point, like, to be like Scrooge, right? To feel the cheer of Groundhog Day and learn to be a better person. But by the end, he's still kind of an asshole. He didn't learn anything. He just fell in love because he's been living an eternity, staring at Rita, and he's like, I like her.
Well, I feel like the idea is that, it has to be Rita who truly loves him, instead of him forcing it onto her. So, at that one point that he does
that's a lot of work to accomplish in a day.
That's true. I mean, he does get back to the that one time where he does everything right throughout the day. He takes her back to his apartment, and yet she's just not swayed because he's like, you should stay the night, kind of forces it on her, and then starts being sort of like sexually assaulty. To be honest with you,
Grape whistle.
Yeah, really, just starts climbing all over her. And then, so that ends up not working out. So, like, it didn't work at that point. But at the end of the day that he actually finishes, the one where he can move on, he made it to the point where she actually was attracted to him, to actually liking him, because of all it. To be fair, like, you can argue that none of that is really relevant to this. To her actually loving him. It's more like gaslighting because he's just done all these things rotely, like he remembers how to do them, and I don't know, like, I guess the idea is coming to this point that you wouldn't learn to do piano. You wouldn't take piano lessons for days and weeks and months, doing it every single day until you were good, like him playing
becomes Billy Joel at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you wouldn't do that unless you truly cared about the person that you were looking to impress. Or, like, I guess the ice sculpture thing, being able to sculpt an ice sculpture and sculpting her and how he sees her is another, way that the film tries to play off the fact that, like, no, it's not just gaslighting. He's also doing all of these things because he truly cares. I could see it both ways, though. It is kind of creepy in a way. Like, it's just like, he has the ability to do these things, so he just learns it so that he can get in her pants. At the same time, I guess you could argue that he could do that with any woman. It didn't have to be Rita, and it might even be a little bit easier than his his obsession with Rita. So I guess it's true love after all. But the film does come across in like that 90s way of it's kind of a little bit skeevy, but at the same time, I guess it's romance.
You just need to play the John Williams score at the end of Home Alone.
Yeah. I guess it's technically romance. She's kind of fooled into it. I kind of wish that you would then, like, after Groundhog Day ends and he moves on with his life, like, what happens after that? Like, sure.
Well, maybe he wanted them to move to Puxatawny.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that we don't really get to see it. Like, do they go back to Pittsburgh and, like, get ready to move and then start having, like, this fallout? Like, it's not, they're like, you're still an asshole. Like, I can see it, him kind of going back to the way he was after he leaves. It's not going to last forever. He's kind of, is he truly a changed man, or does he just go back to his old self, or they realize that they're not right for each other? It's kind of nice to think about it because they just kind of run off into the winter, the beauty of a snowy day. But, do they really survive all the plights of romance? But that's what you get from rom-coms. You don't really get to see the aftermath. You just get to see, like, the immediate, like, yeah, we have an attraction to each other right now.
The fire burning passionately. Where's the sequel to that? Like, well, what happened? Oh, we've been broken up for forever.
Yeah.
She took my TV.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the movie is a little bit skeevy, but you know, like if you were to think about it, like a guy who sets out for an entire year that tries to impress a woman just because of he knows the things that she likes, it'd probably be a little weird. So,
The alphas watch this intently, and like that's what you gotta do.
absolutely.
It's not like it's kind of like thinking about it now. It's kind of skeevy, but at the same time, I still think it's it's fun and it's charming because it's got that Bill Murray, Harold Ramis,
Sure. Yeah, I mean it does. It definitely does have a charm to it. And Bill Murray definitely knows how to turn on the charm at points. Like he knows how to be a really good asshole. He knows how to do the charm too, because he does it very well at the end of the movie. As he's starting to figure out what he likes about Rita and why he wants to do this. He definitely turns on the charm, and you can see why he's good at that. So did you notice too? There's the couple that get married in this movie, where he convinces first he kind of talks them out of it, and then he convinces them to get married. The guy is Michael Shannon, who has been in a variety of roles now. He's in like The Shape of Water, and he was in The Night Of. He played like the guy who was selling everybody weed. But it's hard to I didn't notice it at first because he's so young in this movie. And he doesn't even get like on IMDb. He's not even in the top cast area. But yeah, he makes a really quick cameo appearance. At that point, he really wasn't anything. He plays one of the guy that's getting married.
You know who's even more a better cameo?
Who's that?
Harold Ramis,
Yeah, who's he play? I didn't know.
the neurologist.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep, yep. He does play the neurologist. That's right. Real quick, and I like that too. He's like, what did they perform then? An X-ray? Because they were like, well,
I guess because
we can't do any MRIs or CAT scans or anything, but they're showing him like an interior look at his head. Like we can't do any of that stuff in one day.
It does look like a vet clinic too, and
Yeah.
where it's like,
I know.
it's funny too. I will say it's great too. The fact that the time loop just kind of occurred on its own too. Like Bill Murray isn't Jack Frost, where he's like driven off a road, and you'd expect in this movie when like trying to get back to Pittsburgh in the blizzard, like they'd get in a car accident, like they all die or something, and that's why it keeps repeating. That would make more kind of thematic sense with like being stuck in purgatory,
But not in this case.
but the fact that just like okay, they go back to Puxatawny after they can't get through, and the state trooper blocks them and tells them to go back home, and then he goes to bed, and then he wakes up, and the day it's just repeating.
Yeah, it's anticlimactic, but it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing that I think is interesting too is like, why Groundhog Day? Like, what was the main appeal of setting it on Groundhog Day specifically? Because now, after Groundhog Day, we always think of Groundhog Day and we're like, oh yeah, deja vu. But like at the time in 1993, that wasn't a thing. So why Groundhog Day? Why not, any other? Why not President's Day? We're here covering President's Day. It's just weird. There's like Groundhog Day specifically was the day that they thought of to do this movie about deja vu on. Don't know why.
According to Wikipedia, Ruben, the main writer, opened up a calendar and picked the nearest holiday.
Oh, well, there you go. It could have been President's Day. Could have been Martin Luther King Day.
It's part of the zeitgeist, though. So
it is now, yeah. It was just interesting. It's like what made them choose Groundhog Day, but there you have it. He just picked a day.
It's pretty innocuous, so it fits.
Yeah. Agreed. What do you think about the score in this movie?
It's just got that early '90s comedic, comedy whimsicalness about it.
Yeah, it definitely has that whimsy.
Like you're watching like Christopher Columbus film, basically. Sure. Like Mrs. Doubtfire, like do 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 do.
Compared to the other Bill Murray movies, what do you think this one is funnier, not as funny? What do you think?
That's a tough question. And the main reason being is I loved Bill Murray too. Big fan. Top Bill Murray for me is always going to be his late 90s to mid 2010s, like dry Wes Anderson run. Like nothing will ever top, the Royal Tenenbaums, him as Raleigh, be like, oh, I just want to die. It's Groundhog Day is pretty funny. But I don't think there was a lot of points where I remember laughing out loud. Like I was kind of snickering throughout, but the only time I remember laughing really hard is when he was like in the diner, like talking. When he's like, "I'm God."
Yeah, right.
Like I don't know what God, but I'm God. I'd say it's like mid-level Bill Murray for on the comedy level. It's really good, but it's not like, I don't know about you. I just wasn't like, I don't find Groundhog Day to be uproarious. It's not like him and Kingpin, like, grabbing every woman's ass and, being a total douchebag.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's like extremely funny, but I think it has its moments of either being, somewhat funny or, kind of one of those internal laughs that you get, or like situationally it's funny. I think there are better Bill Murray movies. I think like, it's not intended to be one of his funniest either. It's more of like I said, it's more of a rom-com. It's melding the comedy with the romance. And even though we don't necessarily tend to think of movies like this as a rom-com, I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's it's not intended to like be hilarious. So I think it hits what it should, and it's not overwhelmingly funny or not funny. And that's pretty much all I got to say about Groundhog Day. What about you? Got anything else that we didn't cover?
I wish I took notes because there's a couple of things, but I did. So
they're lost.
But no, it's a really good, real fun movie. It's definitely something worth watching. It's definitely it's got that nice timeless Bill Murray humor and Harold Ramis, direction. Harold Ramis, is kind of an unsung hero when it comes to his films. Like,
he didn't direct much, but he, the ones
when he did, you want to say when he did, did a great job.
All right, so I guess we should rate Groundhog Day. So on a scale of 0 to 10, somewhat hideous but meant to be romantic ice sculptures, what would you give Groundhog Day?
I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I like Groundhog Day. I like it quite a bit. It's a good, fun story. Bill Murray is, very good in this. Plays a top-notch asshole as he always does. Real charming, real smarmy, real douchebaggy. But you can still root for him and like him because he's Bill Murray. Andie MacDowell as Rita. I do think she's pretty, charming. She's kind of like a Southern Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's pretty charming throughout. I think they could have given her a little bit more to do, like to kind of flesh her out instead of just kind of being, there at times. Recurring characters, Larry's, fine. I love Ned. Stephen Tobolowsky is kind of like what I imagined, like if they had Jim Carrey in the role, because he's like, with all the facial expressions and the rubberiness, he does a real good job and he's real funny. It's a lot of fun. You're right. I think the rom-comness too is kind of, you're going to either be able to take or leave it, because it is pretty strong rom-com-y. There's that whole scene when he's talking to Rita in the diner, explaining basically everything that's going to happen every second, and he knows everyone, blah, 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 explaining why he's God, is basically kind of like when, Harry met Sally, when like, I love the way you look, I look, doing the whole Billy Crystal shtick. Film can be corny, but it is what it is. It's a above average, really fun, enjoyable rom-com, and it's got some good bits and some good jokes that are really funny. Not anything that's gonna make you laugh out loud, but a lot of little quick little one-liners and quips. So I'd say an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10 as well. I think it's a fun movie. It has a nice match of humor and romance, especially if you're gonna be with Groundhog's Day. You're coming up to like the Valentine's Day season as well, and I guess that matches with our theme too. We wanted to do a Valentine's Day episode, and hey, here's one that's got some nice romance to it. So we're gonna call it like it is, and it's a Groundhog Day / Valentine's Day movie for you. I think that it does a really good job of managing the same day over and over again, where you don't get too bored of it. It does get a little bit long, but I think that's intentional as well. Like you're also waiting, like Bill Murray, for this day to be over. And it does a good job of like doing the same scene twice or 3 times and like cutting back to it. Like, so you'll see it happen one time, he messes up, he comes back, and it just kind of cuts back to the scene again. Starts right in the same moment that we saw it in the last time. I think it does a good job of that, and Harold Ramis does good direction there. Bill Murray's great. I think he does a really good job as being a weatherman. Like, he delivers that really well. All the weatherman lines too is the best scene is when he first meets with the lady in the inn, and she's like, "Oh, you're a weatherman." He's like, "There's gonna be a blizzard moving in from the north," and yeah, he does a great job of that. It's hilarious, like with all the sarcasm.
Him on the green screen, push like blowing the storm, like it's real funny.
Yeah, I think he does a good job with the weatherman stuff. Like, as a reporter, he's great at that. He's really funny here as well, and he does the asshole smarminess and the more tenderness really well too. So it's a great duality for him in this movie. And Andie MacDowell is good as well. I think she is a suitable love interest, and she has great hair. It's like an elf. Charlotte, you've got great hair. Just want to let you know. It's great hair. But anyway, no, I had a lot of fun with the Groundhog Day. I'm glad I watched it again. It's been a while since I've seen it, so it's good to have it and watch it again. So I guess we're probably not going to do a Valentine's Day episode, because consider this one the Valentine's Day episode as well. So what do you want to do next time? I was thinking something like a Plesia Teskey or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we've been waiting to do one of those.
Yeah. Something like that might be fun, right up our alley. I don't think there's after Valentine's Day, I don't really think there's anything else coming up that we need to immediately get to. Scream 6 is coming out soon in March.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Those are trailers for this?
Yeah. He's in New York City. It's gonna be 2 hours and 3 minutes long.
Are you fucking kidding me?
In regular Scream fashion. Yeah, it's coming out.
Wow.
March
wow.
10th, I think.
Wow. Wikipedia.
There'll be a trailer
got
during the Super Bowl too.
You got Courtney Cox top billing in the cast list, but on the starring side, she's at the bottom. So you know what she's not doing? Starring in the film.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it comes out March 10th. So we'll probably go to the theater to see that one.
Stop! Don't lie to me like that.
No, go to the theater.
Oh, Hayden Pants in the Air survived. That's good.
Yep, she's back. So that will be on the docket. We'll be sure to do that one when it comes out.
Everybody loves Hayden Pants in the Air, Kirby Reed from Scream 4.
Kirby.
I don't care what you say. Scream 4. Terrific. Listen to our review on it.
That's right. All right. So we'll be back with probably a Police Teskey next time, and then we'll play it by ear from there. Probably, I think Scream 6 will be like in a few episodes, but we'll get there.
Probably with our luck, we won't get it around here.
I know. All right, so thanks for listening to our episode on Groundhog Day. We hope you enjoyed it, even though it was late and you're reliving the holiday again.
Here's the big question about Scream 6.
Why?
Is Creed doing the music?
I hope so.
What if?
I hope so. So if you want to hear our coverage of other stuff and want to hear us throw shit together and be late about it and stuff like that, you should definitely subscribe to us on pretty much any podcasting app you can think of. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, our home base at anchor.fm.
Oh, I heard, sorry, but it's on the Scream thing, B2. I heard, I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting a reboot.
Yep, sequel.
A sequel?
Official sequel is what they were saying. Yep.
Can't wait to do that.
Yep. Should be fun. Where is I? Subscribe to us. Leave a nice review. We appreciate that. We're on Facebook and Twitter. You can just find us on there. Search for us, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Like us, follow us, tweet us, whatever you want to do. We also have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want to hear us cover, and we'll keep that in consideration. And you can donate to us on our Patreon, on our anchor.fm page, probably on Apple Podcasts too. Anything you can donate, we'll use towards beer. So thanks in advance. We'll put that to good use. So until next time, when we do our Police Teskey for an episode in 2 weeks, we hope you had fun. And until then,
take care.